Welcome, everyone, to Buddha's Center. So wonderful tonight. Once again, we're discussing Lama Tsongkhapa's Foundation of All Good Qualities, Source of All My Good. And specifically, we're talking about calm abiding. We're at the part of the text where it gets to the union of calm abiding and special insight. And we've decided to take a deep dive into various texts to get a look at how one would actually achieve this incredible mind that is necessary to have in order to see emptiness directly. And we know that in order to be liberated from cyclic existence, we know that in order to become Buddhas, we have to see emptiness directly. We have to have a way to do this. And it's not only once that we have to see it directly, we have to see it directly more and more times through the path of, once we see it directly, the path of seeing, the path of meditation, through the bodhisattva grounds and so forth, to be able to get to the point where we not only get rid of the afflictive obstructions, but the obstructions to omniscience. So it's necessary, no matter what our goals are, whether our goals are to achieve liberation from cyclic existence or to achieve complete Buddhahood, both of those goals require not only becoming very, very wise and understanding objective negation and understanding the nature of reality, intellectually, but they also require one to have a calm enough mind to get a more and more subtle intellectual understanding of it, to get to the point where that kind of intellectual understanding of it, the kind of cognitive use of signs, that kind of understanding of it gets to its subtlest level. And then this calm mind, this very, very intelligent mind that's been matured through this process of, getting calm in the sutra tradition, getting calm abiding, and then, special insight and uniting it in this process, then allows us to see emptiness directly, enter the first bodhisattva ground, if we're talking about it, the Mahayana path, and then, begin to go from the, ground to ground, and be able to eventually get rid of the obstructions to omniscience on the 8th, 9th, and 10th bodhisattva ground. And all of this will require our minds being calm enough to be able to look at the object of observation, that non-affirming negative that is so slippery, emptiness of inherent existence, that phenomena that we prove by dependent arising. But when we try to establish what this not inherently existence is, and still posit existence, it becomes a little bit difficult. And if our mind isn't very, very comfortable with being told what to do, even the analysis of these very kind of complex topics becomes a joke. So as we're getting better at, learning to calm our mind down through this process, we're going to learn more about trying to gain this very high state of concentration we call calm abiding. The process of working towards this very high realization will enhance our ability to be able to study and to be able to understand some of the more complex topics, be able to have the patience to understand the more complex topics, and then be able to have the kind of concentration that allows us to dive into even the more simple topics that really have the most impact on our mind and keep us going. So it says that, those who dwell, in the fangs of discursiveness, Shantideva says, dwell, in the fangs of the afflictions, so if we don't know how to, calm our mind down, and we don't know how to suppress the things that are so loud in our mind that our mind isn't even allowed or given a chance to calm down. If we don't know how to do that, then we won't be able to truly practice what the Buddha came to this world to show us how to practice, because it will require very, very open, intelligent mind and effort. But then it's also going to require this very, very calmed down mind. And we see even in Asanga's Bodhisattva Bhumis, where it talks actually about the Bodhisattva achieving concentration levels for the sake of being kind of, chill in this life, being able to be calm. I actually saw it the other day in the Bodhisattva levels and thought, oh, that's very Bodhisattva Bhumis. That's interesting. Because normally you don't hear things like that, but it's kind of like, it makes sense, Bodhisattva's got to do a whole bunch of, really wild things for the sake of others. And, of course, they, need to be kind of calm, calm about it and be able to have like a peace about it, no matter what's going on, because a lot of very, a variety of difficult things are going to happen. We know that one of the things necessary to get bodhicitta is being willing to endure the hardship, of the bodhisattva. So we see that willingness to be able to endure the hardship comes about, through being able to have these concentration levels that complement each other, and the ability to truly work for sentient beings. Lord Atisha says in The Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment, that without this kind of calm mind, a higher perception is impossible. You can't really work for the sake of sentient beings without clairvoyance, if you, are truly trying to work for their needs. So this calm mind, it just becomes so important on the bodhisattva path, so important on the shravaka or the hearers or solitary realizer path, because on the hearer and solitary realizer path, the main emphasis is that, that calm mind needs to be, you need to have this foundation of ethics, and get a very, very calm mind so that you can see emptiness, so you can, practice the truth of path and achieve an abiding nirvana. So the, in the hearer and solitary realizer vehicle, there's other reasons, obviously, but at a very coarse level, you see that there's that real practical reason that you can't see emptiness unless you have a calm mind, a calm abiding mind that unites with special insight. There's a union of these things. Special insight induces actually this pliancy where this union takes place. So you need that to happen. If we're looking at the various pathways that you have to get through to achieve an abiding nirvana, you have to have that happen so that you can get to a conceptual level at the most subtle place. So we see that for the hearer and solitary realizer, to be able to achieve their goal, a cessation of suffering, freedom from samsara, the state of arhat, state of foe destroyer. You have to have a calm mind to see emptiness to get to that. And then on the bodhisattva path, there's all these excellent qualities of a calm mind and clairvoyances and so forth that allow you to help sentient beings, to work for their sake. So without further ado, let's just do what we normally do. We've gone over, this so many times, where we kind of, set up this reasoning behind why we bring all sentient beings here. And we've kind of set up this idea of the merit field that we imagine in front of us. So we've done this before. So I won't go through as many details this evening as I normally would go through, because we've gone through this quite a few times, and I want to get to the bulk of this material. But just, those of you, there's 115 or something videos on YouTube where there's a very thorough, beginning where we, talk about the reason for bringing all sentient beings here. And we talk about how to relate to the merit field and so forth. So I won't give those instructions really this evening, but I will recite the prayer from the Sanchu Molan, the king of aspiration prayers. This incredible prayer Rinpoche loves so much, that so many teachers recite before the teaching, that says, may I be able to give this teaching in the language of all, and thinking, oh, I bring all sentient beings here. I'm teaching to their various level. And just imagining that hell, hungry ghost, animal, human, demigods, and gods are brought here by me as in order to hear the teaching. And then you imagine that from your side, you bring all sentient beings here to be your guest. So just we'll take a moment, just imagine that you are now inviting all sentient beings to come here to hear the teaching on Lama Tsongkhapa's Source of All My Good, the teachings that's going to focus on calming a mind down. You can't see emptiness without calming a mind down. If seeing emptiness is the only way to freedom, what else is there to do? So we think in these terms while we imagine that we're inviting all sentient beings here to be our guests. La yi dan le dan na jing ge zhi beng da dan mi yi nan dan zhe wa gun ji zha nan ji zang ba dan jie ge du da ji zhi den du. In the language of the gods, Nagas and Yaksas, in the language of demons and of humans too, and however many kinds of speech there may be, I shall proclaim the Dharma in the language of all. Now imagine that you kind of show all sentient beings how to get into the 7-point Vairocana posture. We've gone over this so many times before, and when we look at Lama Tsongkhapa's great treatise on the stage of the path to enlightenment, in the section on body posture, it talks about Kamalashila's stages of meditation, and it talks about Asanga Shravaka's levels. And it says that the Shravaka levels talk about 5 excellent points of the 7-point Vairocana posture. And one of them is that it inspires others. We've gone over all of the other excellent qualities, and we go over it a lot, about the blood flow and the, getting into the best posture to get into, a mind that's really, really clear. But now we're thinking of, we've invited all sentient beings here. So we take note of what Asanga says in the Shravaka levels. And Asanga says, oh, this is a posture that inspires others. So we get into this posture, and it's because it's, not only because it looks a certain way, but then also think about the fact that if it does the job that we're, selling, we're saying in the texts that it aligns, all of the, winds and, everything's in the way it should be in the channels, and that the blood flows the best way that it possibly can, then we're kind of modeling something that is going to inspire them, not only because, it looks a certain way and it looks very stable, it looks like the way Buddha sits, but it also, when they sit like that, they'll feel a difference in their mind when you say to them, feel the difference, just stop for a second, make your spine a little bent. Now put your spine straight, feel the difference in the clarity of your mind. Sit in a posture that's, like Marpa, Lotsawa, sit in a posture like Vairocana, like is spoken about in the great texts, and then sit in a different posture and see which one makes your mind feel more alert. And in Lama Tsongkhapa's great treatise on the stage of the path to enlightenment, it talks about, sitting up, really straight, this alertness that the, sitting up straight, makes happen. So imagine now that you and all sentient beings get into the 7-point Vairocana posture. And normally at this point, we would all do breathing meditation. And we would focus on Buddha Shakyamuni in the front generation and try to get rid of the various types of, evils that can lurk into your calm meditation, such as, scattering and excitement and laxity, lethargy, dullness, and so forth. But we're going to talk about calm abiding in this teaching. So we're not going to do that exercise tonight. We've done that exercise so many different times. But this 7-point Vairocana posture, because it allows for the alertness, and now we're going to listen to a teaching and we're going to recite prayers. When we're reciting prayers and we're leading all sentient beings that we've led here in prayers, we want to be alert. We want to not only be just, saying words, we want to be thinking about the meaning as much as we can without it being distracting. I have to be careful with that. Think about the meaning and have an experience with the words as you're saying them, an experience of when you hear no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, there's, negations being made that are talking about emptiness. So you can hear that as one, there is no phenomena anywhere, not even the smallest molecule that you can find that has inherent existence. And the Buddha is going to give you a pretty big list and kind of freak you out a bit about things that you thought might have inherent existence, like his truths. But the Buddha is here to tell you that nothing has inherent existence, but all of these things, exist that are being spoken of here, but just not the way we normally think. And the way we normally think they exist and the way that they exist, drastically different. Drastic difference. But not so drastic that our kind of experience of the world can't be found to exist. Not so drastic that we just wipe conventional reality out and say everything is just not inherently existent. We have to be able to see how things can be not inherently existent while karma and its results operates, the 12 links of dependent origination operate. And we come to find out that the only way these things could operate is if they're empty of inherent existence. Because if we have a cause and effect relationship going on, in order for things to happen, we look at the 12 links of dependent origination in the Rice Seedling Sutra, then we don't have anything autonomous. And if you don't have autonomy, Lama Tsongkhapa says that even this very simple dependent origination proves things don't inherently exist. And then we get to wholes and parts and nominal designation. But just the idea of this cause and effect, this idea that even in the lower schools, before, Madhyamaka Prasangika, the lowest schools have this idea of dependent origination of cause and effect, the 12 links of dependent origination, karma and its results. And just the fact that we have that proves Prasangika's view. So Tsongkhapa makes a very good case for that, but we know we have to take it further and we have to start to understand more, because what a bodhisattva does differently than a hearer or solitary realizer, even though the object of negation is same, the hearer, solitary realizer, and the bodhisattva all realize the emptiness of inherent existence. The hearer and solitary realizers rely on a couple of reasons to come to their conclusions, and then they can sever the root of cyclic existence with that truth. But the bodhisattva requires innumerable reasons, tons of reasons to come up with 20 emptinesses, 7 analysis of the chariot, the 4 essentials, just lots of reasons to try to get rid of this thing that's not only embedding an apprehension of reality incorrectly. You could get to the point where if you saw emptiness, you could be like, nah, I don't believe it. But this thing that's making it appear, even to an Arya post-meditation on emptiness, as being truly existent, all the way up to right before they're Buddha. So you need a lot of reasons. And if you need to help every kind of sentient being, this reason may work better for them, that reason may work better for them. So we see why it's so important to study emptiness thoroughly. Emptiness isn't just all phenomena are empty of inherent existence because they dependently originate. All phenomena are somehow 2 sides of a coin. Conventional and ultimate truth. The end. To be able to posit while you're seeing something that appearance itself negates inherent existence. And that inherent existence is showing that this emptiness should somehow show there's a dependent origination. There's an object. Because there's not an emptiness of nothing. You have to have the emptiness of something. So if you have an emptiness, you have a something. But if you have a something, you have an emptiness. Because that something's dependent origination. It's mere designation and dependence upon a collection. A collection. Not a collections that is that, just a collection. Thought designation, independence on a collection makes it this or that. So this is what we're trying to get at in the Sutra of the Heart of Transcendent Knowledge. We're trying to get at how we can posit that things exist, how I can create karma, and if I create non-virtue, suffering happens, and if I create virtue, happiness happens, while saying that none of that process, nor myself, have even the slightest bit of inherent existence. So the Heart Sutra, the second turning of the wheel of Dharma, Nagarjuna, Chandrakirti, Aryadeva, Buddha Palita, what they're trying, Shantideva is trying to get us to understand is that all of this works. There is external reality, but it's a projection, and this is a screen. But when there's a projector, it's not just projecting inside, it's projecting onto something. So there's externality in Prasangika. There's something for it to stick to. And that's our work. Basis of designation, imputation, projection. How is that all working? How are we all collectively naming things the same thing if they don't have a character from their own side? This is our work. Buddha says they have no character from their own side. It's just mere thought designation. And that none of it's real, but it's real within your ordinary world. What? It's real for ordinary folks. So there's real and unreal for you ordinary folks, like a mirage isn't real and a car is real. But real and unreal, we can only posit for you ordinary in an ordinary world that isn't really looking closely. Because there's something just being concealed. How can you say a concealer is real? Conventional truth is concealed truth. It's concealing the ultimate. So this is what we have to try to find out. And our minds have to be calm enough to do this kind of weaving analysis that doesn't make us fall off the edge into the extreme of nihilism or permanence. Because once we fall to one of the extremes, we fall to both extremes. So this is something that it's a very fine line to find no character from the side of the object, yet basis of designation suitable to be named. You know, Baba Vega, who's lower than the Prasangika school, says, you know, how could you differentiate things in this world? It would just go chaos and crazy if there wasn't some character over there. A little bit. There's got to be a little bit, you know. Magicians need the thing in order to create an illusion. That thing wasn't there to create an illusion. You know, it'd have to have some thingness, create an illusionness from its side in order for the illusion to be created. The magician can't just, you know, there needs to be something from which to make an illusion. So that makes sense to me, unfortunately. It makes a lot of sense to me that everything around me seems like it's what I name it. And that's what it really is. So much so that we joked before about when I hear the name of something in a foreign language, I think, oh, and then I find out what they're talking about. I think, oh, they mean cup. Gayu, oh, they mean cup. I mean, I have such a strong idea that labels are, you know, the true, the true thing there, that label is the true referent. That's it. You know, the thing is the true referent of the label, I should say. I really believe it. Like my label, that thing's it. But when we start to deconstruct it and we start to look at what Buddha said about how this objective existence, this way things appear to be right in the object, me and everything else appears to be right in the object, is a major problem that creates the spin of cyclic existence. And Buddha came, out of his kind of 49 days of meditation, the story goes, and was asked to teach, and realized, so he says, that this profound Dharma he had realized, that he didn't think anybody could fathom it. So he stayed quiet for a bit until he was really, really urged to talk. Clear light, non-composite, this nectar Dharma I've discovered. I don't think anybody will get it. But then we, Westerners, a lot of us, Americans, I don't know, we hear a simple, like, all phenomena dependently originate, and then we're like, okay, we get it. Dependent origination. All phenomena are just like seeds and sprouts and stuff. Everything's just impermanent. And that's not what everything is not impermanent. Or we hear that, things are empty because of dependent origination and we're satisfied. Yet an omniscient being told the world the difficulty of emptiness by saying so surely that he was uncertain what to do with this discovery. How is he going to get us to understand this discovery that was the middle between the extremes of permanence and annihilation? How is he going to get us to understand this discovery? And we have to dig and dig and dig and look at the emptinesses in Chandrakirti's Madhyamika Avatara, and look at, the Mulya Madhyamika Karika, the root wisdom text that the Madhyamika Avatara is a supplement to, or an entrance into. We have to look at these texts and Lama Tsongkhapa's, commentaries, and Asanga's texts, like I was just talking about, Shravaka levels and Bodhisattva levels, and, the middle beyond extremes, and just try to understand all of these views to be able to put together the exact thing that we need to have as our object of observation when we get our minds calm enough to then unite it with this thing I'm talking about now that's really smart about one particular thing. And that's the thing that Buddha said he wasn't sure anyone could understand. So don't take this for granted like it's a simple process, but don't become scared because you have to do this sooner or later. There won't be an end to suffering until you do this work. Everything that you dislike, all the reasons you came to a Dharma center, were to not suffer in some way and to have more happiness in some way. And none of those things are going to happen until, in a forever way that you'd really like, until you see emptiness and see emptiness and see emptiness and see emptiness as a bodhisattva. So becoming, getting renunciation and bodhicitta, becoming a bodhisattva, all of these things are going to require an enormous effort, a very, very peaceful mind, and a lot of studying, and a lot of reasons to keep going. But if you apply the medicine the way the Dr. Buddha told us to, it works. And there's no question that it works. And that's the beauty of this. So now, you and all sentient beings are in the 7-point Vairakana posture, and you've inspired them all, and they're ready. And now imagine that the entire merit field now is in the space in front of you. Buddha Shakyamuni, imagining His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Khenso Geshe Wandak, imagining Demolosha Rinpoche, Geshe Lobsang Gompo, the Khenso Lobsang Jatsu, the Geshe Dorje Damdula, Umzala Geshe Aga, Geshe Malatenzin Ladrin, Jeffrey Hopkins, imagining all the holy beings of the extensive deeds lineage, Lord Buddha Shakyamuni passed down to Lord Maitreya and Asanga and Vasubandhu and Ignaga and Dharmakirti and Vimuktasena and Haribhadra and Shakyaprabha and Gunaprabha and Sralimpa and Atisha, imagining all the holy beings of those are the beings of the extensive deeds lineage. Now imagining the holy beings of the profound view lineage passed down from Buddha Shakyamuni to Manjushri, and Nagarjuna and Buddhapalita, and Shantideva and Aryadeva and Chandrakirti and Baba Vega and Chandrashita and Kamalashila, and again imagining Lama Silingpa and Lord Atisha, and imagining the lineage of blessings passed down from Vajradhara to Saraha and Matripa and Tilopa and Naropa, and Lotsawa, Marpa and Milarepa and Gampopa, all of these holy beings, imagining the Atishas passing the Lamrim lineage down to Drone Tompa, imagining the three old Kadampa lineages, imagining the holy beings of the Nyingma, such as Padmasambhava, Sakya Konganimpo, Sakya Pandita, the Kaji lineage, all the Karmapas, imagining the Galupa lineage, Lama Tsongkhapa, Kirtubje, Jelsubje, Panchen Sanandrapa, Basajuji Jetson, Jayan Sheba, Gonjo Jimmy Wampo, Jayan Rupi Dorje, Jitsumba, Burbajo, imagining all of these holy beings, the seventh Dalai Lama, imagining highest Yoga Tantra deities, performance Tantra deities, action Tantra deities, all the 35 Buddhas, all the protector deities, imagining now that you are there with all sentient beings, and the merit field is there in the space in front of you. All of the holy enlightened beings. So every being in the universe is here, sentient beings and beings that are not sentient beings. Now in the Buddha's presence, all of the enlightened beings' presence, imagine that you lead all sentient beings in the recitation of the Heart Sutra. So we'll do different exercises and different ways of starting. I'm going to switch it up sometimes so we don't get kind of stuck in a pattern. And, well, I learned that exercise. I learned kind of how to do that. I want to know how to do this other thing. And I want to leave space to be able to get into, more exercises. And then maybe we'll go back to the one that we were doing, a year ago on the Four Noble Truths, if you remember, when we did the glancing meditation on all of the Four Noble Truths and their various attributes and so forth. So, yeah, we're just trying to all learn how to practice, learn how to apply this Dharma to our daily lives, because those are the moments that we have. And we have to get to the point where each of those moments eventually will be seeking transcendent liberation, according to Lama Tsongkhapa, if we have renunciation. And then, in order to become a Buddha, we have to figure out how to, in each of those moments, want to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. And in each of those moments, work for the sake of all sentient beings. So it's about the moments that we have, and we don't know how many we have, because death comes, nothing will stop it. We don't know when it's going to happen, and the only thing that can help us is Dharma. And all we have are moments. And if the only thing that can help us is Dharma, then we have to do as much Dharma in the moments that we have until we die, because death will come and nothing can stop, and we don't know when, in order to have a good future where we've got a shot to never have to suffer again and become a Buddha in that next life, if we haven't done it in this. Because we know that Jitso Milarepa was able to achieve Buddhahood in one lifetime. We know that many beings able to achieve Buddhahood in the, in the intermediate state and take on illusory body and so forth, so we really know that we will all become Buddha. We all have Buddha nature, and it's just going to take us starting to get rid of the afflictive obstructions, the obstructions to omniscience, in order to start getting rid of the afflictive obstructions, the obstructions to omniscience. Okay, so the Sutra of Heart of Transcendent Knowledge that explains explicitly that emptiness I was just talking about, that we have to see in order to become free, in order to become the happiest beings in the universe, and implicitly talks about the 5 Mahayana paths: path of accumulation, path of preparation, path of seeing, path of meditation, and path of no more learning, that lead to that goal of no more learning, of Buddhahood. And we can study what that is at another time. The Sutra of the Heart of Transcendent Knowledge. Thus have I heard. Once the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajagriha at Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a great gathering of the Sangha of monks and a great gathering of Sangha Bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the Samadhi that expresses the Dharma called profound illumination. And at the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, while practicing the profound Prajnaparamita, saw in this way. He saw the 5 skandhas to be empty of nature. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, how should a son or daughter of noble family train who wishes to practice the profound Prajnaparamita? Prajnaparamita means perfection of wisdom. Addressed in this way, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, said to Venerable Shariputra, O Shariputra, a son or daughter of noble family who wishes to practice the profound Prajnaparamita should see in this way, seeing the 5 skandhas to be empty of nature. Form is emptiness. Emptiness also is form. Emptiness is no other than form. Form is no other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, perception, formation, and consciousness are emptiness. Thus, Shariputra, all dharmas are emptiness. There are no characteristics. There is no birth and no cessation. There is no impurity and no purity. There is no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no perception, no formation, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no dharmas, no I, dhatu, up to no mind, dhatu, no dhatu of dharmas, no mind, conscious, dhatu, no ignorance, no end of ignorance, up to no old age and death, no end of old age and death, no suffering, no origin of suffering, no cessation of suffering, no path, no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since the Bodhisattvas, therefore, Shariputra, since the Bodhisattvas have no attainment, they abide by means of Prajaparamita. Since there is no obscuration of mind, there is no fear. They transcend falsity and attain complete nirvana. All the Buddhas of the three times by means of Prajaparamita fully awaken to unsurpassable, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the great mantra of Prajaparamita, the mantra of great insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra that calms all suffering, should be known as truth since there is no deception. The Prajaparamita mantra is said in this way. Teata om gate gate, paragate, parasangate, bodhisoa. 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 Teata om gate gate, paragate, parasangate, bodhisoha. Thus Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound Prajaparamita. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, good, good, O son of noble family, thus it is, O son of noble family, thus it is. One should practice the profound Prajaparamita just as you have taught, and all the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Venerable Shariputra and noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, that whole assembly in the world with its gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One. Gala jube ne jo damba ne nguje de ju ngai de do jen de ba ba la ma yi ba jen zi ne son gandro so la shat lo. I prostrate to the gatherings of dakinis in the three chakras who abide in the holy yoga of using space by your powers of clairvoyance and magical emanation. Look after practitioner like a mother looks after her child. Aga samara tashandada samara yabe aga samara tashandada. Aga samara jasandara samara ave de adon gate gate parasangate bodhiso ababa goncha sanji gai dimbe doji shel lobadoji mebadoji shewa doji dragi baje mete beje danji shedin goriye ha get in don jaje joje wa dan medon ne beje nan wa dan dom ba doji bonzon joji dashi de jan den da de le jo. By the truth of the existence of the three jewels, may all inner and outer hindrances and adversities be overcome. May they become non-existent. May they be pacified. May they be completely pacified. May all negative forces opposed to the Dharma be completely pacified. May the host of 80,000 obstacles be pacified. May we be separated from all adverse conditions to the Dharma, and may we obtain all circumstances conducive to the Dharma. May there be auspiciousness, happiness, and well-being here, right now. Now we'll make a mandala offering as a request for teaching. I feel so blessed to be able to give this explanation in the room where Kensur Geshe Wandak Rinpoche, our holy Lama, inseparable from Aryatara, spent the last year and a half or so of his life, did his last years of meditation here. And we know that one of the kind of good conditions that one can have for achieving calm abiding is meditating in a place where holy beings have meditated. So I just wanted to invite all of you here as we talk about calm abiding into this place with me. I mean, we're here, you're in the video, you're here with me. So I wanted to invite you here with me to share this experience of Rinpoche's room. And we see here on the altar, Rinpoche's main stupa is right here, where we even have a piece of his holy skull. And then many, many stupas here with Rinpoche's ashes in them, you can see. And yeah, feel so fortunate to have been in the presence of such a holy, holy being. And even after Rinpoche's passed, just his presence and his impact all over the world, now that I speak with so many different people, is just so clear. And so many people really, really have had their lives changed for the better because of meeting this Buddha. So now we'll make a mandala offering as a request for teaching that's only being given because of the kindness of Khyentse Geshe Wandak. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun, and the moon. I imagine this is a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. Holy Lamas high, wrap the sky of your Dharma bodies in massive clouds of knowledge and love, and let them pour upon the earth of your disciples as we are ready, a shower of rain, the teachings deep and wide. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the merit I create by teaching the Dharma, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the merit I create by teaching the Dharma, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the merit I create by teaching the Dharma, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. Sanje janan zaje janan la janje bade da ni jazu ji da gi ji 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 be zanan ji jo la ben ji sanje ju ba sho sanje janan zaje janan la janje bade da ni jazu ji da gi ji 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 be zanan ji jo la ben ji sanje ju ba sho Sanye jadan zaji janan la janju badu dani jazuji dagi juji bezananji jala benji zanye jubajo. Enthused by great compassion, you taught the Immaculate Dharma to dispel all perverted views. To you, the Buddha Gautama, I pay homage. If you are attached to this life, you're not a spiritual practitioner. If you're attached to samsara, you have no renunciation. If you're attached to your own self-interest, you have no bodhicitta. If there is grasping, you do not have the view. Okay, so we'll read quickly, glancing at Lama Tsongkhapa's Source of All My Good now. Just to get a feel for the four categories. Pabunka Rinpoche says, just to always refresh our mind. Isn't it wonderful? We can say, oh, what is the source of all my good about? What is the foundation of all good qualities by Lama Tsongkhapa about? And then you can answer in a broad sense and say four things that everything Buddha ever taught could fall into in terms of how you would progress on a spiritual path. And that's really what the name of the game was for Buddha, showing us through various skillful ways how to progress on a spiritual path towards actual reality, a reality where, self-grasping ignorance isn't, correct, grasping at an inherently existent self isn't correct, and a place where self-cherishing attitude is the opposite of the way that we should behave. And these are very, very difficult things to have our minds transform from a place, first of all, that's, grasping at things as being inherently existent, that then causes an inappropriate attention conceptuality, and then afflictions and contaminated karmas and samsara, and from that comes this kind of self-cherishing attitude. And it has kind of gross layers where you're, just, actively disregarding, people, and then subtle layers where you're just oblivious to people. And all of these need to be gotten rid of if we want to achieve what I think everyone would agree that we want to achieve: freedom from suffering forever, and bliss forever, reliability complete reliability, knowing exactly what to do in every moment for everyone you love. And when you say everyone you love, that's in Buddha's world, that's everyone in the universe that has afflictive obstructions and or obstructions to omniscience. It's really just amazing, how you could convert this mind. Anyway, without further ado, how do you take a mind like this? The mind like this, it's so biased. It see things as just so cut and dry, and that cut and dry is so wrong. How do you change, such an attitude that's so ingrained? And then when I start to feel like there's, how, and there's like, you're falling out of an airplane without a parachute, you realize, well, the same way that Khyentse Geshe Wandak and His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Lama Tsongkhapa and Kirtap Je and Joseph Je and Panchen Sonam Drapa and Jayan Sheba did it. And they didn't keep it a secret. And then the parachute opens. And we have to know, we have Buddha nature. We have this mind that isn't naturally screwy. These stains are adventitious, meaning that the mind is just this clear, bright, it can reflect, it's not dirty, and it's illuminated, so it can see, reflect. It was dark, you couldn't reflect. So you needed light, and you needed clear. So it's just this mind that can reflect and know. You choose what it knows and reflects. But the problem is you've been choosing the wrong thing forever, since the beginning of this time. So when I say you choose, chances aren't great. And that's why we have to every day remind ourselves that, yes, we can do this. And yeah, mind like mine that can do this. And how, and what's been, is there any proof? Well, 10 years ago, mind like mine. 20 years ago, mind like mine. Whoa, okay. If I haven't done any kind of like special therapy work in the meantime, I haven't employed some sort of ritual. All I've done is kind of cognitively work with this material. And I see that the person sitting here has a different quality, not the quality that the person sitting here wants, but aren't we always, wanting, right, wants. But if I'm really looking back and really honest and really looking at like what I really dug 10 years ago, 5 years ago, what I really dug, and today what I really dig, is really not the same at all in terms of focus and willingness just to keep grinding away and not being satisfied with partial instructions. That willingness to just keep going, Since Rinpoche passed away, just keep going. Rinpoche said to us, you can get other teachers. Jeff, just keep going, keep studying, keep teaching, keep studying, keep looking at the books. The books are your teacher, keep studying. And wow, what a difference it makes. What a difference that has made in that period of time where Rinpoche passing, where I could have chosen to do nothing, fallen apart, or just reminisced about this great master. But no, I choose to actively do what he came here to show us how to do. And it's made all of the difference. It's not even close. Where my mind even was when Rinpoche passed away versus now is not even, it doesn't even resemble it. And it's because of the kindness of the teacher. So we see Pabunka Rinpoche says 4 categories, starting with, how, finding a teacher, and then we see in the Lam Rim, what's a good teacher? What are the qualities of a teacher? And what to do once you found this teacher around the teacher in thought and in practice, how you should, relate to this kind of teacher. And then Pabunka says that's category 1, stanza 1. Next categories are all, okay, now you have one. This is what you do to progress towards Buddhahood. And you get rid of now another 12 stanzas of the 14, or 11 rather. Yeah. So now you're at the first stanza and another 11 stanza. 2 categories done. Third category, prayers and supplications that you can continue to have success, and no obstacles in the path. Things that could stop me now, stop and end forever, Stanza number 13, basically. So stanza 1, how to find a teacher, how to relate. Stanza 2 through 12, what to do, how to practice the path, all the way up to highest yoga tantra. Category 3, a prayer of supplication that you can just have no obstacles so that you can become Vajradhara. Category 3, stanza 13. Category 4, a prayer that you're never separated from perfect lamas, because we've learned that lama is the source of all of our good, and that we can succeed on all the levels of the stages in the path to become Vajradhara. So that's category number 4, dealing with stanza 14. So let's read it, and then let's go right into calm abiding talk. Source of all my good. The source of all my good is my kind Lama, my Lord. Bless me first to see that taking myself to him in the proper way is the very root of the path, and grant me then to serve and follow him with all my strength and reverence. Bless me to first realize that the excellent life of leisure I found just this once is ever so hard to find and ever so valuable. Grant me then to wish and never stop to wish that I could take its essence night and day. My body and the life in it are fleeting as the bubbles in the sea froth of a wave. Bless me first thus to recall the death that will destroy me soon, and help me find sure knowledge that after I've died, the things I've done, the white or black, and what those deeds will bring to me, follow always close behind, as certain as my shadow. Grant me then ever to be careful to stop the slightest wrongs of the many wrongs we do, and try to carry out instead each and every good of the many that we may. Bless me to perceive all that's wrong with the seemingly good things of this life. I can never get enough of them. They cannot be trusted. They are the door to every pain I have. Grant me then to strive instead for the happiness of freedom. Grant that these pure thoughts may lead me to be watchful and to recall what I should be doing. Grant me to give the greatest care to make the vows of morality the essence of my practice. They are the root of Buddha's teaching. I have slipped and fallen into the sea of this suffering life. Bless me to see that every living being, everyone my own mother, has fallen into. Grant me then to practice the wish for enlightenment, to take on myself the task of freeing them all. Bless me to see clearly that the wish itself is not enough. For if I am not well trained in the 3 moralities, I cannot become a Buddha. Grant me then a fierce resolve to master the Bodhisattva vows. Grant that I may quickly gain the path where quietude and insight join together, one which quiets my mind but from being distracted to wrong objects, the other which analyzes the perfect meaning in the correct way. Grant that once I practice well the path shared and become a vessel that is worthy, I enter with perfect ease the way of the diamond, highest of all ways, holiest door to come inside for the fortune and good. Bless me to know with genuine certainty that when I've entered thus, the cause that gives me both the high attainments is to keep my pledges and my vows most pure. Grant me then to always keep them, even at the cost of my life. Bless me next to realize as well as I can the crucial points of both the steps, the essence of the secret ways. Grant me then to practice as the holy ones have spoken, putting all my effort in and never leaving off the practice of the 4 times highest that there is. Bless me, grant me that the spiritual friend who shows me this good road, all my true companions in this quest, live long and fruitful lives. Bless me and grant me that the rain of obstacles, things within me or outside me that could stop me now, stop and end forever. In all my lives, may I never live apart from my perfect lamas. May I bask in the glory of the Dharma. May I fulfill perfectly every good quality of every level and path, and reach then quickly the place where I become myself, the one who holds the diamond. Okay. 8 o'clock. Okay. So we're looking right now at the section that relates to calm abiding. Because, one which quiets my mind from being distracted to wrong objects in that stanza is talking about a calm abiding. So we're trying to, calm our mind from being distracted to wrong objects. What are wrong objects? External objects. We're trying to draw, inward in mental consciousness. This is where we achieve calm abiding. It's not done with physical senses. And we saw that, there's negations made about that. And Asanga's middle beyond extremes, where it talks specifically about that. And in Pabunka Rinpoche's short commentary, he talks about how we aren't using an external object like a stick or something like this. We're not using our eye consciousness to try to get calm abiding, or sensory consciousness, or ear, nose, tongue, tactile, none of these things. We're trying to use our mental consciousness to focus on something. Focus, it says in Atisha's Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment, on one virtuous focal object, focus on this. And then eventually you go through these various levels. We're going to talk more and more about the 9 stages and achieve the state of calm abiding, where you can pretty much get your mind to do whatever you want it to, anytime you want it to. And it'll sit on an object at your will while you're feeling very blissful and have a lightness of body and mind. And you could sit on an object for however long you want. They say 4 hours, but I've heard people say days if you chose, without any problem, without any kind of like hurting. So what we're doing is we're practicing, we're learning how to get something amazing like that. And it says that when you get that, you can easily become clairvoyant and travel places, see distances, hear distances, and understand your past lives, and see other people's minds. I don't have any of the, but it's, the text, these great authors, who haven't been wrong really since so far, are saying these things can happen, like superpowers. And and if you could have them, you could see how you could really work for sentient beings. Really, if you had these superpowers, then you could really work for sentient beings. So we were not talking quite as fancy. We were talking about what kind of place, what kind of circumstances, what kind of prerequisites, what kind of requisites would you need to achieve calm abiding. And we talked about staying in a favorable place and what that would mean, favorable people, and so forth. And having few wants becomes the next thing. So we did an extensive look at the 5 qualities that a place should have according to the ornament from Mahayana Sutras, Mahayana Sutra Alankara by Lord Maitreya. So last Thursday, we went over those 5 things about qualities of a favorable place. It should have material needs to be easily gained, be a safe area and wholesome location, have good companions present, and be conducive to meditation. So we went over that last week, and we landed actually on having few wants. So I want to finish this section on the 6, because then I want to talk about, some of the meditations that you do that Rinpoche taught, that will help if you have bigger problems. We'll get into that. Let me get into that when we get into that. So this next category among the 6 is having few wants. So having few wants means not to crave large amounts of food, clothing, and the like, and not to desire that they be the best quality. This is all it says. I looked around, nobody's got more. So you get it. You don't need lots of food. It doesn't need to be special. The clothes you have don't have to be the special clothes. The food isn't the special food. You're just satisfied with whatever it is. You're content. You don't need any of those things. You've limited, you've gotten to the place where your kind of sensory needs are suppressed, if you will. So few wants. We can think about what would that be? Being satisfied with what one has. So few wants is, but here it's just talking about a level of peace, satisfaction. Okay, so now you don't have a lot of wants, but you do have this stuff here. So you have to be kind of satisfied somehow. So let's see what it says. Pabunga Rinpoche's Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand. This is what we're reading from. Being satisfied with what one has means to be content with whatever food and clothing we have, no matter how poor they may be. So the first one isn't desiring the fanciest and isn't desiring the best food. And here it's now, okay, well, you don't have it. Are you content? So it's kind of taking it to this next layer of, okay, all right, now you have poor food. How do you feel about it? So it says, no matter how poor they may be, if we fail to develop the qualities of having few wants and being satisfied with what we have, we will generate attachment for sense objects and become distracted by such concerns as trying to accumulate and take care of material wealth and possessions. Because of this, we will not be able to gain one-pointed concentration. So we see, the big problem that we have. I know as Westerners, we all have this addiction to just stimuli. We're just so addicted to stimuli. And the book is saying, guess what? If that's the case, if you can't fix that somehow, you're kind of screwed, because you can't get calm abiding. You can't even get the prerequisites to try to start it. You can't even start getting it if you can't figure out how to cut the addiction out to the stimulus. So we're going to talk about, okay, that sounds great. How do you do that? We're going to talk about that next. There's meditations, and we're actually going to get into, it's cool, Gampopa's jewel ornament for liberation. We would say, when we say the lineage of blessings, and Milarepa's student is Gampopa, wrote the jeweled ornament for liberation, like a Lamrim text in the Kagyu tradition. A Lamrim text in the Kagyu tradition. I didn't mean I just always think of Lamrim Chemo, but Lamrim just means stages of the path. And Gampopa's text is on the stages of the path. So we're going to look at that and some of the meditations in it, because they're the precise meditations. I want to just show how everything, if it's being told correctly, lineages, Nalanda, India, Tibet, we should all be talking about the same thing. Jeff should be talking about the same thing as Kamalashila and Asanga and, the masters like Milarepa, Gampopa, and, then we should be talking like Lama Tsongkhapa. And there's going to be slight variations, and I'm going to show you them. But the variations are nothing that really is like, oh boy. Variations are really not. They're just not. If you study Madhyamaka and you studied with Kensur Geshe Wandak, it all looks the same. You hear songs of Milarepa and you hear Lamrim Chemo. Okay. So you gotta not have lots of wanting, and you gotta be satisfied with what you have. Now we get on to, what are we on? Number 4, having pure moral practice. Morality, we know when we look at the 3 highest higher trainings: ethics or morality, concentration, and then wisdom. Ethics is compared to, if you wanted to cut down a tree, you would need a strong body to start. Concentration is, so ethics is compared to that strong body that you would need in order to cut down a tree, if your goal was to cut down a tree. Concentration is like the arm you would need to cut down a tree. But you can't cut down a tree with just a good body and a good arm. You'd need some sort of a cutting tool. So the first 2 are ethics and concentration. Ethics being the body, concentration being like the arm. Okay, so it's compared to this. So the body and the arm to cut down the tree, ethics and concentration to cut the root of ignorance. But now you can't cut the root of ignorance with just ethics and concentration, just like you can't cut the tree with just a strong body and a strong arm. You need something sharp. So once you have a strong body, strong arm, good arm, and then something sharp, you can cut a tree. Just like when you have ethics, concentration, and wisdom, you can cut the root of ignorance. You can cut that thing that binds you to cyclic existence. You can release yourself. You can be freed from. There's those things that bind you to cyclic existence. And then the last 2 noble truths of the 4 noble truths show you to be unbound. You can be unbound. You can cut it. You can cut your binding. Really interesting when you start to look at these words. You're bound. You can cut the root of cyclic existence. You're bound to cyclic existence. If you were bound like this, if somebody cut you, you'd be free. So, wow, we have such a chance. But ethics is the foundation over and over and over again. Sutra, Tantra, ethical behavior must be present for anything to take place. And then concentration must be present for anything to take place. And then wisdom must be present if the thing is going to take place. And that's liberation or Buddhahood. Liberation here is solitary realizer, afflictive obstructions removed, or Buddhahood, where the afflictive obstructions and the obstructions to omniscience are removed. The stains left over in the arhat's mind of here in solitary realizer vehicle are unacceptable to the bodhisattva. Those stains of the subtle self-cherishing attitude are unacceptable because they keep the bodhisattva not only from being like the greatest helper, but they keep that bodhisattva from experiencing their own bliss. Unacceptable to the bodhisattva. Okay, so we know that it says more specifically, the quelling of subtle inner distractions depends on our ability to overcome rough outer distractions. We're talking about morality right now. If we tend to have many rough conceptual thoughts, this prevents the mind from remaining in a naturally calm state. Therefore, by stopping us from committing verbal and physical misdeeds, our moral practice enables us to quell the outer distractions that come from having many conceptual thoughts. So then, avoiding the disturbance caused by being involved in many activities, coming and going and so forth. It's translated a lot of times. If we don't avoid the disturbance and confusion caused by having many activities, we'll spend our time pursuing meaningless interests or engaging in conversation and the like. And then those moments that we have, that we don't know how many of them we have, that will be the only thing that can help us if we practice Dharma in them, are what matter. So it says if we spend all our time pursuing meaningless interests or engaging in conversation and the like, basically, then we're going to waste our time. We're going to waste those moments that we have. We don't know how many that we have, and those moments need to be practicing Dharma because that's the only thing that can help us. So if we spend our time in meaningless, doing things that are meaningless, meaningless interests and hobbies, and we spend all of those moments with that, we haven't done the only thing that can help us. And it's just been a waste. We've just wasted the time that we had where we could really take the essence of this life and practice the teachings for beings of three capacities. A life of few pursuits and few activities frees us from these distractions. The reason we must cultivate such a life is to promote the development of meditative concentration. Furthermore, if we have few wants and we are satisfied with what we have, this will naturally cause us to have few interests and not be involved in many activities. So if we don't have all these wants and desires and stuff, then we're not going to need to go here to see this and there to do that and this to do that. We're going to focus inwardly instead of outwardly. And that's what calm abiding is. We're even drawing all the winds in. Everything. To get to calm abiding, I mean, you read about Tantra and you think that, that's the only place where really, really funky stuff happens. Study shamatha. What you're trying to do, you're drawing everything in. You're drawing all of your projection in, all of the wind in, everything. Mind is riding on the wind. The wind is, what creates everything? Wind. I'll say it again. What creates everything? Wind. The mind, subtle mind, rides on the wind. We're drawing the wind in. We're drawing the mind in. This is all wind. We have to withdraw external appearances because we're not dealing with senses. We got to draw it in. There's something in there. We'll leave it at that. Furthermore, if we have few wants and are satisfied with what we have, this will naturally cause us to have few interests and not be involved in many activities. If we wish to dedicate ourselves wholly to our spiritual practice, even astrology, medicine, performing divinations, and going to laypersons' homes to perform rituals, obviously written to monks, but this was not given just to monks and nuns, this teaching. So he's just talking to some folks in the crowd. Pabunka Rinpoche is. They're like, I don't know, 20,000, a lot of people at this teaching, 20,000 or something. So he's talking to everybody. He's like, yeah, and you're doing divinations. Pabunka was quite a, if you read his work, he was quite rough. So he's saying, and you're going to lay people's homes just to do rituals, and you're just distracting yourself, learning about divinations and astrology. What a waste of time. And think about in Tibet at this time, there's not like a lot of like, oh, well, we could go to the racquetball club or the tennis club, or we could go play basketball, or we could go play soccer, or we could get on our phone, and we could do some gaming, or we should go to a show. We could see some jazz, we could see some opera, we could see some classical music, we could see some country music, we could go see some rap music, we could go see some fusion music, we could go see some funk music, we could go see some blues music, depending on how we're feeling tonight. I'm a music guy, so like that's you see what I mean? And that's just for like a music guy. Like think about, oh, I love books, and we could go to the book club, we could get the book reading, get the newest book of the month club, and I could read all this fiction and learn about world history. And that's what Pabunka Rinpoche is saying, like, hey, if you want concentration, this isn't going to help. And hey, don't get concentration, but you'll never have freedom if you don't. Okay, so Pabunka Rinpoche always puts his head down and like gives you the consequence to you not doing what you should do. So then it says, Kapche Rinpoche told us that such pursuits can be damaging even for great spiritual beings, let alone beginning practitioners. And here, it's saying, Pabunka Rinpoche said this. So who's saying that? Trijung Rinpoche. Pabunka Rinpoche said to Trijung, you're the only one I trust. Write everything down I said and make this book. So when you hear this, and then Kapche Rinpoche said, this is Trijung Rinpoche, Kensur Geshe Wandok's teacher, saying that. I mean, think about this spiritual family we're part of. It's not for no reason. For instance, so then it goes on to talk about, I'll read it. I'm just going to read it. There was a story about a spirit who harmed both Bhutan and Lama Dampa by offering them iron pens. They used up 1,000 of these pens during their lifetimes and allowed themselves to be distracted by studying science and grammar and language. They had 1,000 pens. They were just writing. Because of this, neither of them were able to achieve the ultimate attainment. But Tome Zampo, the Bodhisattva Tome Zampo, who wrote the 37 practices of the Bodhisattva, continually meditated on loving kindness and compassion. The same spirit was unable to harm him. Jay Rinpoche also composed 18 volumes of writing, that Lama Tsongkhapa, but he did not follow the custom of writing the title in 3 versions. This was not because he didn't know Sanskrit. It was because he felt that it might detract from our spiritual practice to have something more than was needed. So Jay Rinpoche, Lama Tsongkhapa, was so kind to be so willing to be like self-critical in his writing and say, if I add that may be extraneous. So concise Lama Tsongkhapa was. So kind to us, that's why the Lamrim Chemo is like this shining, brilliant diamond. Because Lama Tsongkhapa was so concise, illuminating the intent, the Umagomba Rapsel, the commentary on Chandrakirti's supplement or entrance to the middle way, Chandrakirti's commentary on Nagarjuna's Mulya Madhyamika Karika, Lama Tsongkhapa wrote later in his life. Oh my word, so clear. So clear. No, nothing. It was so clear. So clear. It says, I too studied Sanskrit writing and composition meticulously for about a year. This is Pabunka. During which I wore away the skin on my fingers and also wore out the surface of 2 or 3 samta boards. But this proved to be nothing more than a distraction and was of no benefit to my spiritual practice. If we devote ourselves to efforts such as these, the only kind of karmic impressions that we will plant in our mind are those to further the same kind of activities in the future. So if you want to just do astrology and not become a Buddha and not become a being in nirvana, then do that. If you want to just, in my case, jam while you're suffering, play the blues. If you want to do that forever, you can. I don't know if you can forever. The Buddhas are really skillful and gonna convince you to do otherwise. But it's saying that, plant what you want. You reap what you sow. Plant what you're into. You want freedom? Do that. You want suffering of change? Chase after things that'll give you more of that. So clear. What do we want to have in our future? Plant that in your mind, and that's what'll happen. Dependent origination. The end. We will not succeed in creating any of the karmic impressions that will help us to attain the elevated states or the ultimate good if we don't plant the things in our mind that are concordant with those results. Therefore, we should not fail to devote ourselves to those practices that have genuine spiritual value. Unlike the person who becomes attached to the skin of sugarcane and misses the real taste that lies within. Also, we should ask ourselves what we hope to accomplish by devoting ourselves to such insignificant pursuits as one of the minor sciences. So this is just something they had to study then. That was a distraction. Think about all the things you can distract yourself with, and think about whether those are leaving imprints in your mind to have freedom, imprints in your mind to have the biggest freedom, Buddhahood, or the smaller freedom, Hinayana Nirvana. Or are you getting more samsara? It's your choice, chef's choice. Chef's choice, really. You're the chef. You cook what you want. You want a crappy meal? Cook a crappy meal. Chef's choice. Eater's choice. You're the cook and the eater. You're going to cook it now, eat it later. You want a crappy meal? Cook a crappy meal now. You'll have a crappy meal later. That's simple. You want to have an amazing, perfect meal later? Cook an amazing, perfect meal's causes. Make that recipe. Don't make the crappy recipe. I also cooked for a long time, so I didn't use recipes though, so it's kind of like I just cooked like this. It worked out, but it probably would have been more consistent if I had used a recipe. Anyway. Okay, so then Kapche Rinpoche then told us that persons so this is just Trijung. Then he told us this, and then just imagine. So when you think about lineage, when we do the merit field, we imagine they're right here in the room. Think about that. We were right here in the room with Rinpoche. Rinpoche was right there in the room with Trijung Rinpoche, who was right there in the room with Pabunka Rinpoche, who said, hey, almost like a Tisha to Drone Tompa, I only trust you. And then Pabunga Rinpoche told us the persons who continue to pursue sense objects, even after they have reached an advanced age, are deserving of pity. Aren't you old enough to know better by now? Pabunga Rinpoche is saying, wow, that's just pitiful. You're pitiful. You're not a child. You're not a toddler. And you still think that, planning that in your mind, you still think a crappy meal later on is what you deserve. You don't know any better. You're just going to throw stuff all over the wall like a monkey or something. And you'll see that Gampopa compares us to animals later on. He also recounted the story of the pauper Sarada, who, after finding a wish-granting gem, gave it to the king and said, you are the greediest person in the land and therefore the poorest. Then Kapche also told the story of Geshe Ben's preparations for travel. And then the next is overcoming thoughts about sense objects and other things. All right, I'm going to finish it. We must overcome thoughts about sense objects and other things by contemplating the disadvantages of having attachment for sense objects and by contemplating impermanence in the form of death. Kapche Rinpoche concluded this section by saying that if we develop all of these favorable causal factors and practice diligently, we can achieve quiescence within, wait for it, 6 months. I know. I see your face. 6 months. Not next life. So what would it take to get our minds to a place where we have few desires and live in a place where we have conducive surroundings and our friends don't stink and aren't bad influences and we don't have to go here and there? What would it take? Because it says if we could kind of get to that level where we'd be ready to start, 6 months. If that's our main focus day and night. This is in a retreat Pabonka Rinpoche is talking about. 6 months. So if you're attached to this life, you're not a spiritual practitioner. Why would you not want to be a spiritual practitioner? You can do all of this incredible stuff. You can literally be so satisfied and full of bliss sitting anywhere, anytime, in the middle of whatever. The Bodhisattva wants to be chill, like a chill cucumber, and does it, and is, in order to kind of deal with the hardships of dealing with sentient beings. It's not easy, but we start to get a taste of it and start to get a taste of that isolation of the mind, starting to isolate it and being able to really, really start to see what it's like in that space. You'll see the potential. So anyway, I just hope that everybody applies these teachings to their daily life and really makes it matter. And again, you know, if you're attached to this life, you're not a spiritual practitioner. So figure out what you want. Do you want to plant those seeds that give you the meal that's not as good? Or do you want to plant the seeds that give you the best meal you could ever have, the perfect meal? If you want the perfect meal, if you say, okay, I'm willing in this life to do everything I can to get a PhD, okay. All right, well, would you be willing to do everything you need to have perfect happiness? It doesn't sound like being a spiritual practitioner and is a bad thing. It seems like it's the smartest thing. And it seems like if you could be the kind of being that we're talking about in these books, you'd be the best for everyone in your life by not being attached to it. It's the only way you could really serve those you love, is by not having all the messiness of our mind that pushes and pulls us towards things. If you're attached to samsara, you have no renunciation. If you're attached to your own self-interest, you have no bodhicitta. If there's grasping, you do not have the view. We got to find the view. No calm abiding, no findy the view. No find. You can't, Rinpoche would say, no find. No findy. He liked to put the why. I don't know. You know, you're not going to find it. Okay. Prayer for the flourishing of Jitsongkhapa's teachings. Though he's the father, producer of all conquerors, as the conqueror's son, he produced the thought of upholding the conqueror's Dharma in infinite worlds. Through this truth, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. When in the presence of Buddha Indraketa, he made his vow, the conqueror and his offspring praised his powerful courage. Through this truth, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish, that the lineage of pure view and conduct might spread. He offered a white crystal rosary to the sage, who gave him a conch and prophesied. Through this truth, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. His pure view, free of eternity or destruction, his pure meditation, cleansed of dark fading and fog, his pure conduct practiced according to the conqueror's orders. May the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. Learned since he extensively sought out learning, rightly applying it to himself. good, dedicating all for beings and doctrine. May the conqueror Lozong's teachings flourish through the being sure that all scriptures, definitive and interpretive, were without contradiction, advice for one person's practice. He stopped all misconduct. May the conqueror Lozong's teachings flourish. Listening to explanations to the three Pitakas, realized teachings and practicing of the three highest higher trainings is skilled and accomplished life story is amazing. May the conqueror Lozong's teachings flourish. Outwardly calm and subdued by the hearer's conduct, inwardly trusting in the two stages practice, he allied without clash the good paths of Sutra and Tantra. May the conqueror Lozong's teachings flourish. Combining voidness explained as the causal vehicle with great bliss achieved by method, the effect vehicle, hard essence of 80,000 Dharma bundles. May the conqueror Lozong's teachings flourish. By the power of the ocean of oath-bound doctrine protectors, like the main guardians of the three beings past, the quick-acting Lord, Vaishravana, Karmayana, may the conqueror Lozong's teachings flourish. In short, by the lasting of glorious gurus' lives, by the earth being full of good, learned, reverend holders of the teaching, and by the increase of the power of its patrons, may the conqueror Lozong's teachings flourish. We'll make a mandala offering as a thanksgiving for teaching. Thank you so much, Kensur Geshe Wandak. Thank you so much, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Geshe Dorje Damdumsla, Geshe Aga, Geshe Mala Tenzin Ladra, and all of the teachers, because without teachers, we are blind. Jeffrey Hopkins, has helped us so much. Without these teachers, without these kind of lamps to show us how to walk down a dark trail, we would be really running into trees and, wouldn't have any idea where we were going. But because of their kindness, we have a flashlight, a bijnali, as they call it in India, that we can then see where we're going. And we'd be blind without our kind lamas. Concluding mandala offering and dedication prayer. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this is a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. I dedicate whatever virtues I have collected for the benefit of the teachings and of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Losang Drapa to shine forever. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. Any mistakes that I've made, may they be purified by this mantra. May anything that you've heard be kind of erased and purified. They were unintentional if I made any mistakes. I don't know of any that I did, but if I did, may they be purified. Imagining Vajrasattva in the space in front of you, inseparable from your root Lama, and imagining that light rays and nectars are descending down and then landing on you and all sentient beings. And these light rays and nectars that are, showering down on you and all sentient beings are transforming into white ohms, red ahs, and blue ohms, and purifying yours and all sentient beings, body, speech, and mind, respectively. Now, through the power of this mantra, may this purification be possible. Om benza sada samaya manubalaya benza sada zaina vajita dete meva vazu dukaya meva vazu bugaya meva anuragda meva zavazidi me braja zavagama sutra me kitab shayam guru hum ha 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 ho bhagavan zavadata gata benza mame moka benza bava maha samaya sapa ahom hey. May we always be protected by Paul and Lama. Jo Rama Jo Rama Jo Jo Rama to Jagalara Jamo Rama to Dajitan Jo Rama Jo Jo Rama Jo Rama Jo Rama to Jagalara Rama to Dajitan Jo Rama Jo Jo Rama Jo Rama Jo Rama to Jagalara Rama to Dajitan Jo Rama Jo Jo Rama Jo Rama Jo Rama to Jagalara Rama Rama Vaja Dajitan Jo Rama Jo Jo Rama Jo Rama Jo Rama to Jagalara Rama to Dajitan Jo Rama Jo Jo Rama Jo Rama Jo Rama to Jagalara Rama to Dajitan Jo Rama Jo Jo Rama Jo Rama Jo Jo Rama Tunjo Kalarajemo Rama Vaja Dajatunjo Rula Hunjo. May anyone who's having obstacles with meeting with the Dharma, may they all be removed through the power of this mantra of Drapa Sundri, three wrathful protectors. Om Vajrabhani Hari Griva Garuda Om Ved. Om Vajrabhani Hari Griva Garuda Om Ved. Om Vajrabhani Hari Griva Garuda Om Ved. I dedicate all this virtue to emulate the knowledge of the hero Manjushri and likewise Samantabhadra as well. With whatever dedication is praised to Supreme by all the conquerors to traverse the three times, I also dedicate all my roots of virtue for the sake of auspicious deeds. In that pure land surrounded by snowy mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness. All-powerful Avalokiteshvara Tenzin Gyatso, may you stay until samsara's end. And here a prayer of supplication to Kensur Geshe Wandak Rinpoche, written on March 6th, 2023, 1 year after his passing from this world. And again, anyone who's just joining, these are Rinpoche's holy relics behind me. We're so fortunate that he came into our world. And then when he passed, he shared with us these relics to be able to look at and then read sutras like, the Tigris or read the Tigris where the Buddha explains his previous lives and see for ourselves what the ashes or what the remains or what the relics of a holy being look like, and compare them to what it says in the Tigris a holy being's remains look like. We're fortunate. A complex yogi poses as a simple monk. Homage to Khenso Geshe Wandak Rinpoche, our precious spiritual friend who is inseparable from Aryatara. I fully prostrate, covering as many atoms of the earth as possible to your pure body, speech, mind, and enlightened activities. I offer to you drinking water, bathing water, flowers, incense, candles, scented water, and food and music purified by Om, 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 Om. The rarity of having 1 million wish-fulfilling gems is a common occurrence compared to meeting with a holy teacher like you who placed the complete path to Buddhahood in our childlike hands. Just like Atisha, who came to Tibet with a lamp to dispel the darkness of ignorance, you, kind abbot, arrived in the West with a lineage purer than a diamond and begged us never to be satisfied with partial instructions. The teachings of the extensive deeds and profound view lineages flowed from your lips like nectar for our ears that elucidated the teachings for beings of 3 capacities. Now that sound has stopped. All composite things are impermanent. You told us that all of your teachers passed away and understood the sadness, entreating us to continue our studies. The Buddha does not wash away the negativities of beings, nor does he remove their miseries by his hands. His spiritual realizations are not transferred to them. It is by teaching the truth of suchness that beings are liberated. We are not prepared to take this difficult journey to the highest goodness of Buddhahood without your continued guidance. Sadness in our hearts would be too overwhelming. May you swiftly return to this world and take care of us in all of our lives, wherever we may be, never leaving our hearts in crowns. May all sentient beings perfectly realize renunciation, bodhicitta, and the correct view of emptiness, so they know who you really are. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you on Sunday at 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. We're looking at Lama Tsongkhapa's Great Treatise on the Stage of the Path to Enlightenment. It will be a little bit shorter class on Sunday because I'm giving a teaching for another center in Portland, Oregon, on Zoom about renunciation. So I hope I hope they're ready. See ya.